And so they decided to hire because our people were protesting and because we're trying to protect the waters, we're trying to protect the land, and water is life. They decided to use the police and bring them in. And basically they bring the police in to intimidate us, our people, to arrest them. And they don't care who they arrested, whether young or old. And basically, this is considered, folks, this actually is unceded land. That means that the government does not have the territory, the right to take that land and use whatever they want. I don't care if Prime Minister Trudeau thinks that he has everything in control, and he says, well, the people of Canada said it's okay. Number one, here's one thing most people make the mistake of saying, the people of Canada. Who are the people of Canada that say it's okay? Think about it. Who are the people of Canada that say it's okay that they can put a pipeline in to BC and that he says I can do whatever I want because I'm the premier? Well, you represent the people, Mr. Trudeau. You are not a god, nor are you thinking you're better than all of us. Okay? You need to start listening to the Indigenous people first before you start saying we all consulted you people. You guys never consulted us. You were showing us what you were going to do. You never asked for our opinion. All you asked when I was at your meetings and you kept showing all these huge maps, because these maps are surrounded all over the tables, and you're saying where would be the best place to put the pipeline. I never indicated to you anywhere where to put it, because I'm watching, I'm thinking, what the hell are they asking? Why are they asking all the non-native people, the police officers, the ambulance people, the fire department, people of the county, the mayor, the MPs? They're asking them all in that area, where would they want to put the pipeline that they think would be safe to go? Okay, that's what it really was. They decided to put it wherever they feel like it, but they're asking other people to say, where would you want to put the pipe? So then we can lay it down. So anyways, with John knows what leaks of pipelines can do. And he can tell you the story why. It can damage the community. It can damage the water. And bitumen does not float, folks. It sinks, but it poisons the ground. It poisons the earth. There's very few birds. There's very few insects. There's hardly anything alive around John's place now. And John can tell you all the wildlife is hardly around because they're pretty well mostly dead. And, okay, anyways, before I go any further, John, what do you think of this?
Yeah. Well, what you're saying is true. They restocked our fish. We had 40 miles of fish die, and they told us to lie to everybody and say that they were okay. And then they restocked the fish about a year later, and they all died. And then they restocked them again, and now they have tumors and oil inside of them, or in their scales and stuff, because they're swimming through oil that's sitting at the bottom of the river. And they said it's clean. Enbridge said that they cleaned it up years and years ago. I blew the whistle. I was a worker, cleanup worker, and supervisor, depending on the job and the day. And I just saw the biggest cover-up in North American history. They were putting grass with a brown canvas with grass seed in it, and it's modified grass that actually can grow in oil. And they weren't cleaning it up. They weren't digging it up. And you were mentioning how toxic it is. If I mention that you're going to have a cyanide pipeline going through your territory, I bet they would vote against it.
Yeah.
But because they call it the word oil or bitumen, they actually allow it. The truth of the matter is, if you drank one shot glass of the chemicals that thin out this really thick peanut butter style oil, one shot glass would kill you within 5 minutes. You'd be dead. Your kid would be dead, you'd be dead, whoever drank it would be dead. It's that toxic.
And you can't breathe it, can you? You can't breathe. You can't even inhale it because it leaves a smell.
Well, then, yeah, that's the problem. So in my community, everybody thought, well, if I stay away from the water, I'll be fine. Problem was, there's benzene in the air, toluene, hydrogen sulfide, methane, hexane, dectane, propane, all these toxic chemicals that if you breathe in, it says in one breath on the MSDS sheet, which is the material safety data sheet, it says it can kill you with one breath. And we had dozens and dozens of people go into seizures after the spill. We had people go into comas. We had people pass away. We believe 60 people passed away from the spill. But the oil company will obviously, I mean, that's their job to call you a liar. And they'll never allow you to go to court to prove it because you can't fight them. It's just too hard. It's too expensive. So the way I'm fighting them is just videotaping all the sick people, interviewing them. I'm interviewing hundreds of workers, police officers. We have a police officer in my hometown that was told to cover up oil on his own property. And these people now support what I'm doing, and I'm trying to just gather all this evidence so I can show anybody, it doesn't matter who you are, show you a video, and if you don't believe it, then shame on you. I've got oil workers that are quitting their jobs because of the information I have gathered. And they didn't really know it. I'll be honest, I worked for oil, and my whole family still does. And I didn't know how big of a cover-up this is at all oil spills. I mean, they don't report 70% of the spills. They leak every single day. They can leak up to 2% without any alarms going off. So not even the oil company knows they're leaking into your wells. And, I mean, when you're talking about 2%, that can be thousands of gallons a day. And it's 82% more toxic than normal car oil before you even put it in your, pipeline. And then you add all these toxic chemicals. Enbridge, for an example, they did 100 air sample tests after the oil spill. And they said that there was no benzene, no hydrogen sulfide at all 100 tests. 2 years later, I found documents that actually said from the EPA that it was 2,500 times the legal limit. And they never told nobody about it. They never evacuated these people. And now we have 7 kids with leukemia in our local school. My dog died, my cat died, my uncle got a blood disorder, had both of his legs cut off and passed away. He couldn't make it through the surgeries, and it's horrible. It messed my kidney up, my joints. The last couple of days I haven't been able to walk because my joints are so, I was exposed for years to these things. And my head supervisor died in 3 years. My dog died, my cat died. That's just my family, and we have a cluster of cancer now in my community. And they say they don't know what it's from, but, I do. I'm so...
Yeah, well, because they don't want you to know that they don't want them to know the truth. Why? Like everybody's like, well, cancer, okay, everybody gets cancer. Well, how? It has to be environmental. Cancer is not created by our own bodies. It has to be environmental. Where were you that surrounded you that made you have cancer? Why are these children having cancer? Why are these folks having epilepsies? All in one square block.
And proof of what I'm saying, these oil companies are trillionaires, billionaires. They have so much money, they can do anything they want. And they will file lawsuits against anybody, and fictitious or real. And they will throw people in jail on whims or trespassing or whatever. Guess what? They've never taken me to court for trespassing. They've called the cops 30 times on me, arrested me once. They didn't show up to court, and they refused to file any defamation character lawsuits against me because they know I'm telling the truth. And I actually hope they file a lawsuit against them. I've been waiting, I'm hoping, because it would allow me, I want them to call me a liar. They won't even call me a liar anymore.
Yeah.
Because they know I have too much evidence against them, and they don't want to see me in court. This is bigger than what you can imagine. They profit from these oil spills. They actually, if they do not fix a pipe, they actually will make in profit from the revenue that they're not losing, billions of dollars. And they don't care if there's a spill because they'll just wait 5 years like they did in Michigan. They knew it was cracked for 5 years. But if they fix it, they lose that revenue because they have to shut the pipeline down, lose $8 million a day. $10 million, depends on how big the pipe is. But in the situation, how they make money is when the spill happens, the insurance company hires them to clean up their own mess. The insurance company pays for lost revenue, pays to fix the pipe, pays for everything, pays for the lawsuits, everything.
You know, John, they promise people to be employed when they make a proposal. Say, well, you know what? If you let us put your pipeline through the area, we need to bring the pipe. We'll promise you jobs.
And that's a lie.
That's a lie, and because they've already got their own people. But they said, well, we'll train those people. They train them, but they don't hire you.
And that's true. That's 100% true what you just said, Derek.
Yeah.
So let's use the XL pipeline for an example that will go from Canada to Texas.
Okay.
China actually owns the majority of TransCanada. It's a China pipeline that wants to go through the largest aquifer in the United States for no logical reason.
Yeah.
We found documents that say that China can suck water out of the aquifer. That's why we believe they want to put the pipeline through there. Because they already own an easement for the Keystone 1, which I actually worked on myself. Mm-hmm. And this is so big. I mean, they own the bottled water companies. They own the hospitals. They own the pharmaceutical companies. They don't care if you get tumors. They don't care if you get sick. They don't care if you don't want to drink the water because you'll buy their bottled water. The top 1%, top 5% run and own everything. And it doesn't matter what it is. And so you have to think bigger than this pipeline going through your backyard. It's a poisonous pipeline that's going to leak in your wells. It's going to contaminate your wildlife and your fish. They say that it's the safest way to transport oil, but the truth is that oil that you're transporting is for foreign export. It's not for Canada. It's not for the United States. It actually goes to export to China and other countries.
So it's not coming to us. It's not coming to the United States. It's coming directly to China.
You guys can't refine it because it's too toxic. So you actually have to send it to the United States to refine it properly. And it goes down to Texas most of the time. And what if we poison the Great Lakes? There's two 64-year-old pipelines going through the Great Lakes right now about ready to bust. What if they do bust? Then Canada and America loses the Great Lakes. What are we going to do when we lose 21% of the world's fresh water? This is for our grandchildren. And I'm not against oil. Everybody thinks that I am, this far left type of guy. I am far from that. I'm in the middle. I see right and wrong. You do not put a pipeline through waterways, for one. And you don't put a foreign pipeline through your country that's going to poison your water, poison your air, and poison your kids. There's no reason to do that. It's all for profit. And we need to make a difference in this world, and we need to shut most of these pipelines down. We got to go solar. We got to go wind. It's there. We have renewable energy now that's cheaper than what your electric bill is. We can put solar on someone's home for $0 down now in Canada, and your bill is going to be less than your electric bill. You can save money from day one. All you got to do is just say, I want solar, and it's going to happen. Yeah. It's that affordable nowadays.
John, I want to share something with you that I've read today, and there was actually one of our MPs, Mark Garneau, and a few others actually were talking about, he's a Minister of Transport, and he was actually saying he wanted to call out the military and have the military get involved because he believes that we'll be violent, even more violent. Like he thinks that we're going to go swing in and attack the police officers or whatever while we're protesting. So he wants to bring in the military, and he thinks it's going to turn out to be like another Oka. And now those people, you may not know what Oka is actually an event that took place that the First Nations people of years back were trying to protect the land and the territory. And the military came in and got really involved, and it was not nice. It was really horrible. And there was, deaths, and it wasn't pretty, and it was horrible. So we're hoping this is not going to be like another Standing Rock, because John was there too. John, you were also in a Standing Rock.
Yeah, I was there for a couple times, and I stayed for 5 weeks one time, and I was ashamed of my government. I was ashamed of the police. Morton County Police in North Dakota were corrupt on the highest level. They were being paid large sums of money to shoot rubber bullets at the press. They were doing anything they can. They were starting fires. We have evidence that there was paid infiltrators from their own documents that say that they paid people to start fires and to make it look like the protesters were violent when they were not. They were all there just trying to drum, sing their songs, pray, and in unity, all colors, all races, all religions. It was a beautiful thing that we tried to accomplish. But we have to stop these pipelines at the permit process. Because once the permits are approved, it is so hard to stop it because then the oil company can sue the state or the government because the contract is violated if the pipeline doesn't go in after that. We have to actually stop it at the pipeline process. And I wanted to get back to jobs.
Mm-hmm.
On a normal pipeline going through a state of, in the United States, they use about, at the most, 800 workers. Now, they said 100,000 workers when they were proposing the XL pipeline. But think about that. They said 100,000. The truth is 400 per state, plus you have union workers that travel from state to state. So you have 400 supervisors, foremen, the top guys that will come to your state, and they will hire 50% of the workforce, which is in the United States, that's the rule. And you have about 400 per state that's working. And then after that pipeline's put in, you only have about 25 permanent jobs if you're lucky. Now, the big thing that people need to understand is the motto I have, actually, the union members are now starting to support me. They actually asked me to go to the state union meeting because I can actually, if the oil companies do what I ask them to, you will have 3 times more jobs and so much overtime, these workers won't know what to do. And that is fix the old pipelines that are cracked and busted and bowed and leaking. If they went through and fixed every pipeline that they needed to, every 5 to 10 years, because now this tar sand oil is so abrasive that's eating away at the weld, and they can't be welded properly. Even you've mentioned that the steel comes from foreign countries and it's not strong enough. It can't be welded properly.
Well, we used to have our steel plants in Canada, as well as you'd had your own in the U.S. to make the pipe, and they contracted them both out. They shut down the plant and they contracted them both out to China. And so everyone is believing that, and this is what Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain actually said. Well, we make the pipe in Regina in Saskatchewan, and that's wrong because they don't do that. They transport it there, and they just spray it, a coating on the interior of the pipe to seal it, which basically is some sort of a coating. And I was at one of the meetings, and they said when Alberta protested a few years back about the leaks in the pipe, and I remember when they had the meeting with the BC Métis Federation, we had our AGM, and they were proposing what they wanted to do their presentation to us, consultation, and I listened. And they said that they double-coated the interior of the pipe in Alberta, and they decided to do us a favor for BC was to triple spray the interior of the pipe. Then they turned around and they laughed at us, and they said, but just don't tell Alberta that we did you guys a favor more than Alberta. I'm going like, are you kidding me? Really? Like...
But Derek, that's how they lie and mislead people. The truth of the matter is that coating does nothing to the inside of those pipes.
No.
But that tar sand oil that you guys have is so abrasive that it eats away at the fittings and eats away at the welds, and it takes that coating off in weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So they can say anything they want about the coating on the inside. It doesn't do anything. I'm lost for words. I'm so mad right now because that's how they lie. That's
well, you know what we'll
in
do?
my community, they put
John?
rocks over the oil.
John, what we'll
Actually,
do... Hey, John, just
Go
hang
ahead.
on a second, my friend. What we'll do is have you take a little bit of a break, and we're going to actually throw a song in right now, folks. We're going to have J.J. LaValle and the Freebird Band, and it's called Jimmy's Breakdown. And that's number one, my friend Mark. We'll be right back. You listen to CFRO 100.5 FM, Métis Matters Radio. Yeah, that's Jimmy's Breakdown, J.J. LaValle and the Freebird Band, and you're listening to Métis Matters Radio on CFRO 100.5 FM, beautiful downtown co-op radio here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. I got my guest tonight here, John Boliboff, who actually is the pipeline whistleblower. He actually has a website called helpa.org, which is PPA.org. And he's also got a few other pages. But if you guys ever want to see any of John's research and his work proven to you that the truth is what he's been doing, you can go on YouTube and type in John Boliboff, which is basically BOLENBAUGH, John Boliboff, and go onto his website and to YouTube and you know, go in there and have a look for yourself and see his research. Now, John does have DVDs to give out, so if you folks are actually interested in wanting to have one mailed to you, have a chat with John. He would like, and if you would like to give a donation for him, because he works very hard to get out there. He's given up a lot of his own earnings and his life, because basically John has had his life endangered and threatened many, many times. And they tried to slash his tires. They took off the bolts on his motorcycle. And I mean, beating the crap out of John, and he's still here because I would say because John had fought or had been in the military, and this young fellow, he's determined to be out there and to stand up for what is right. And John has worked very hard getting out there to share what's going on, and it's important, folks. You need to know that this is not just about John. This is actually about the protection of the water and the land. But John became that whistleblower because he electively chose to. He wanted to. He's given his life for all of you out there. And he's not asking to be a hero. He's not asked to be a martyr. He's just showing you the proof that Enbridge, Kinder Morgan, Trans Mountain, they lied to you. They make up stories and make you believe that, you're going to get money, that the government's going to get money, or we're going to get jobs. None of that's going to happen, folks. None of that's going to happen, and it's been proven. John knows this. And yet we are going out there, and here's a Premier Rachel Notley in Alberta, and she says, we're going to cut back the oil and the gas to BC because it comes this way. We're going to cut back and make you guys starve, and then we're going to raise the prices to $2 a liter. And so basically in American, that's triple the money we would pay if we were in the United States. That's triple the money. Because my wife and I, she broke it down to how much it would cost for a gallon of gas compared to BC right now. Our BC gas is double than the gas across the border. If Rachel Notley raises the gas higher, that's triple the fuel, folks. In the U.S. That means that we are paying lesser money what's going to happen? Everyone's going to cross the border and get their gas. So Rachel Notley, you're not scaring us. A lot of us are going to go across the border if we have to. We're still going to fight. And I know I feel so strong for everybody out there. And also want to give a big shout out to Gunarji O'Sullivan. She's in our chat room, and a big shout out to you, my dear. You work so hard in your own program and promoting a lot of the things that are going on in the Indigenous community, and I really appreciate you supporting, being part of this. And she's been sharing her story for us and with other people she's spoken to, many, many politicians. But like I said, what really gets me is that, you get a politician or politicians that think that they're going to actually try to scare you. And then they get CBC involved. This is what gets me. CBC is supposed to do some sort of a survey, and now they're saying that they're 54%, BC is 54% wanting the pipeline. You know what it is? It is nothing but intimidation, folks. They're just making us believe that we will starve from having fuel and that Rachel Notley's like a god. I'm sorry, but that's wrong. That's blackmail. That's complete blackmail. No province, and this is the thing. That's complete blackmail. No governor, no premier, no one, no MP has any right whatsoever to threaten our way of life, and that's called blackmail. And there must be a federal offense on that, and Rachel Notley should be charged and locked up. I'm sorry, but I'm standing up for this. I feel bad for all the people up in Fort McKay and Fort Chip and all the tar sands and Fort McMurray. I mean, look at the devastation of the fire they had up there. And that fire kept on intensely getting bigger and bigger and bigger in Fort McMurray. It's because of the oil in the air, the scent, the smell of the oil. It intensified into full circle. You guys should know better than that. That's the oil city. I remember the beginning of the year, I used to live in Alberta. Over 30 years ago, that was only a small town of maybe lucky with 1,500 people. And then it got so big to 150,000 plus because of the oil. And everybody's rent up there was so expensive to try and get a place. Most people living in trailers, and even trailers are $500,000 because they're trying to find a place to live while they work up there. That's why everybody's getting paid so much, so well. You know, it's not the oil I'm against. It is how they make the darn product. That's what gets me. They make the pipe and it's horrible. It is porous. It's not perfect. And that's what they got to fix. And if they're just getting bloody cheap. And all they want to do is intimidate us. And this is what really makes me. It makes me upset. And I really strongly believe that Trans Mountain is just putting a lot of pressure on Notley as well as Trudeau. Whatever deal that Trudeau has had, you know, this is not really, they want to call this free energy, or they want to call this clean energy. It's not clean energy, it's dirty. John, does that make any sense? It's not clean, it's dirty.
Oh, no. It's the dirtiest substance known to mankind. I mean, besides nuclear waste after they're done using it. It's, they don't have a choice. They have to lie to you. They're trying to squeeze out the revenue as fast as possible, as much as they can before solar and wind take over. Because once a barrel of oil reaches a certain amount, about 25 to 30 bucks, there's no reason to ever try to dig out any more oil in Canada because it costs too much to process. It costs about $35 to $40 a barrel to process tar sand oil. So it's not logical to, dig out and truck and put it through these pipelines if they're going to lose $10 to $15 a barrel. So their goal is to do it as fast as possible. And the problem is you're going to poison all your waterways. You're going to poison your land. It's proven fact that you have about 10% of the native tribes that live by these tar sand pits that have brain tumors. 10%. And they actually tested in the middle of the winter because they were being told, hey, the tar sand oil is hooked to the rivers. It's part of the ground. So what they did is they tested the very top layer of fresh snow, and they found out that it was contaminated. And that is because it's in the smokestacks. It's in when they're separating the tar and the sand, it actually is releasing all these gases and contaminants, and that is what's killing your fish and your animals and your children. You have to stand up to these people. I'm willing to die for this. I've had, like you said, let me go into this. I've had my brakes cut twice. I've had my tires slashed, all four. I've had my gas filter loosened on my RV to make it look like it was going to be an accident if it burned up. I've had bolts taken out of my motorcycle wheels 2 weeks before I testified under oath. I've been beat up. I've been hit over the head from behind. I've had trolls that are paid by oil companies to call me a liar and to make me look bad. And as you know, Derek, I'm telling the truth. And all you got to do is watch my documentary. The best domain that I think you guys could use that goes to the same documentary website is kindermorganlies.com, embridgelies.com, transmountainlies.com. Just grab one of those domains of an oil company with LIES on the end of it and put signs all over your community and make people watch these videos, because there's no way you can watch it without understanding that you are poisoning your community. You're helping big oil kill your children 20 years before they should.
John, you had to make yourself, or I guess you say you had to put some money into making a bulletproof television.
Oh yeah.
Like what the hell?
I've spent about $130,000 so far doing this. For 7 years, I never even had a website. So if people think I did this for money, I gave up a $80,000 to $100,000 a year job depending on overtime, and that was 5 years ago. I work more hours now than I did for the oil company, and I've spent $130,000 of my personal money. So please understand that this is what I feel passionate about. It's for my 3 little girls, so they can have clean, fresh water someday, I'm hoping. And I made this TV unit because Standing Rock, they were shooting us with rubber bullets. and I had a press pass and a camera, and I was still being shot, and I was sprayed with, 20-degree weather. I was being sprayed with water hoses. I mean, I just can't even believe they were doing this. We had 300 injured people in one night. We had 25 people go to the hospital. One girl can never use her arm again. It was basically shattered by concussion grenade from them. We actually had a girl that lost her eye, was shot in the eye and lost it, and they never get in trouble for any of this because big oil runs the government. And so I made this TV unit, costing me $30,000. It's a 75-inch TV. It's got bulletproof glass in front of it. The union shop where the oil spill happened actually made it for me. And I got top-of-the-line speaker system, wireless mic, solar power, battery-operated, and it's on wheels. And the goal is that in the future we can push this in front of the police officers or oil workers, and we can force them to watch educational video and see interviews from ex-workers and see interviews from police officers that are sick now or they know the truth. And that's my goal, to educate people. I'm a nonviolent person. I wrestled 17 years. I wrestled in the United States Navy. I'm pretty tough. I can hold my own, but I would rather, do the education part of this because I believe it's gathering more attention that's going to save lives in the future.
John, when you now you're doing a lot of lectures right now as well.
Yes,
and
I am.
you're
just
traveling.
went to Ohio. I've been to 20 states in the last year, and paid my own money to do it. But this is too important, man. My wife had to go back to full time. I made over $100,000 in 2016. And when I went to Standing Rock and I saw how big this is and people are starting to pay attention, because I've been waiting for Standing Rock to happen. I knew it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And when it happened, I quit my six-figure, year income job, and I worked for free. And, I worked for free for 5 years, but then, you have kids and you have a house and you have payments. And the wife said, honey, I'm going to go back to work full-time. You go ahead and do what you got to do. And I have an amazing wife that supported me, and she's paying the bills right now. I work on the side here and there, but my goal is to educate people.
And let you folks know out there, I've already talked to Courtney, his wife, and she misses him a lot all the time whenever he's on the road. And it's really hard for a wife with 3 kids to be at home waiting for her husband, hoping that he comes home. It's like being on a tour. And it can be really scary. And she's told me that herself.
I don't know. It is scary. We have 12 cameras circling our house. I don't know from day to day if I'm going to be alive. I feel like I'm in a war zone, and I don't think I'm paranoid. I've seen so many, whistleblowers murdered. With the Gulf oil spill, if you Google it, you'll see 6 or 7 whistleblowers in the first year were murdered. And so I tried to be different. When I started blowing the whistle, I actually came forward and did a last will and testament, and I made it public. Mm-hmm. I told everybody, if I pass away, you have rights to my videos. And I gave hard drives to several people in case something happened to me. And it's now part of court record. I have 700 gigabytes of footage that 100% proves an Enbridge cover-up. And if something happens to me, it's still part of court history. It's still something that people can do to use to get the information out legally. And you can never be sued for defamation because it's part of court record, and I did that on purpose.
Let's talk about EPA, environmental.
Well, they're part of it, Derek.
Yeah.
They signed off on all these areas. Sorry to cut you off. I apologize, but
no problem.
The EPA's never talked to me about the cover-up. I'm one of probably the biggest oil whistleblower in the history of the world. That, obviously we probably had some big ones back in the day, but you never really knew about it because you didn't have social media and video cameras like you do now.
Yeah.
So, I'm not the only guy. I'm just the one that's the most popular right now. But the truth of the matter is they were a part of the cover-up. They signed off with 3 signatures from 3 head supervisors for all the areas that were full of oil that were buried and covered up. And the reason why the EPA will never support me is for two reasons. One, I will get 10% of the re-cleanup, which is, it was $600 million. I would get 10% of that, so I would legally get $60 million. And instead of the EPA getting it, the EPA got $62 million, I think. I actually would have got that. That's a fact. But they never supported me, and they never investigated, and they didn't want to. The second reason is, if they admit that I was telling the truth, they have to send dozens of supervisors to prison for falsifying documents, which is a felony. And they're never going to cut their own throat.
No. Not at all. So, folks, if you want to find John's stuff, sorry, my throat. If you want to see any of his DVDs, you can order them from John. John would love to send them to you. You can get an idea, and then share these DVDs, folks. You know, like, yes, it's wonderful to keep it for yourself, but if you want to order more than one and share with others, please. We'd love to. John would love to hear from you. Or if you want to contact, if you can't get through to John, just get a hold of me, and I'll pass you information on to John. I've been interviewing John on another radio show for the last 6 years as well. So I've had John on many times on my other show. And the thing is that this is the first time here in Vancouver that John has ever been interviewed here in this region of Western Canada. So between myself
I've had CTV come down, and I took them out to the river and showed them the cover-up. And on the same exact day, they interviewed Enbridge up in Canada.
Yeah.
And Enbridge said it was clean, and I'm sitting there showing gobs of oil in the river. And but what do you know? They never, ever showed any of it in the news. And I spent days of my life showing them so much evidence that there's no denying it. Why didn't CTV show that information to all of you?
Yeah, definitely. So much time we got there, Mark?
8 minutes left.
8 minutes left? We're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good.
So if people want to go to Big Oil Whistleblower. That's probably the easiest one to remember. BigOilWhistleBlower.com.
Now, and before we go into that one, John, let's go talk about, like, even though we do have bitumen, they're talking about bringing the bitumen through tankers as well as on the tank, like basically in the boats and tankers.
Don't do that.
That's what they're doing. They want to bring the tankers in. And also, the other part they're trying to bring in is also them by semi to the site. That's why Kinder Morgan's up here right now. That's why they're building this big plant. So they're bringing the bitumen in, but besides bitumen, what else is in that oil? Besides oil itself. I mean, they always talk about other chemicals that are with that.
Well, I mean, it's the thinners because it's so thick. It's, like I said, peanut butter. And it's the benzene, toluene, hydrogen sulfide, methane, dectane, propane, hexane. There's hundreds of chemicals. I mean, it took us 8 months of filing a lawsuit against the oil company just to find out the chemicals that are in, the basic chemicals that are in this. They do everything they can to try to say it's a trade secret, so that way they don't have to tell doctors the chemicals that are poisoning their patients. It is ridiculous. They don't want to help sick people. They don't want to help you. They don't even want you to prove that you're sick. The whole goal is to get that oil from one place to another and sell it at the highest dollar. That's the only goal they have, and that's the only thing they care about. And they will give money to, they'll build a park, or they will give some money to an environmental group to shut them up. They've offered me money, and they didn't shut me up. They offered you money. Mm-hmm. Tell them about that, Derek.
Well, yeah, they try to pay me off, too. I mean, when I was at one of the meetings with BC Métis Federation, I mean, they even had the audacity when I was speaking up for what's right. Regarding the pipeline, I didn't agree. I was telling the story about John. I even asked them. I even asked Trans Mountain. I said, do you know who John Boliboff is? And they looked at each other, and I know they did. I mean, they knew who you were, John. They looked at each other, and they said, no. You liars. Well, you knew who he was.
They have gag orders. They're not allowed to talk about
They're not allowed to talk about you. But in the end, after the whole meeting, of the consultation meeting, my wife was sitting next to me. They had the audacity to walk up to me and offer me their business card. They gave me a business card, and they said, we can guarantee you working for us, we will pay you $150,000 a year if you work for us as a speaker for the company. I'm going like, I don't think so. I wouldn't do that. But to them, they think that, I got a conscience. And no, I gave back their card. I said, no, thank you. But they knew if this is what they do. They tried to get you to, the money part. And it's not the money part, folks. If you really care, because here's put it this way. If I did take it and didn't say nothing, and I ended up being their speaker, and then something happened on this earth or water and people are dying, I would feel really bad. I mean, literally, it would kill me because I have a guilt. I cannot handle the idea of watching people suffer. Why should I work for a company that actually is not beneficial and it's not healthy? It's not something that you think we're calling it, that is good. It's not good for you because EPA is saying that bitumen is safe, right? So, anyways.
Well, I mean, that's what they say.
Yeah. John, I'm going to thank you so much for joining us, and I appreciate you coming on the show. And folks, like I said, you want to see John, find John, you can give him a call. We can pass you on the phone numbers as well. His website, helppa.org. And thank you, folks, for joining us. And next week, we'll be seeing you guys again. Métis Matters Radio. We're going to be back with your 78 CFRO 100.5 FM. You're listening to JJ LaValle again. We're going to go sign out. Whiskey before breakfast. Take care, folks.
God bless all of you.